I wanted to make a fast video about books because I'm not sure why. I saw Professor Anton's video today, and he'd earlier asked about the differences in the medium of the book when he was talking to Tool Time, and I gave it a lot of thought, and I really didn't have time to make a video. But I have a little bit of time right now. I'm on the fly, actually. I'm between doing things. But I wanted to show you why I use books, different formats for different things, but I wanted to talk specifically about what books mean to me, which I know sounds sort of ridiculous, but they do mean a lot to me. And I wanted to talk about how I use them for different things, different mediums. I'm reading The Hunger Games right now, the trilogy. I finished all three, and I read them on the train. So I've loaded them onto my Kindle, and that's just to make them portable. And that's exactly what I usually do. If I know I want to read a book as a commuting book, I put it on my Kindle. And that's why I put The Hunger Games. And I know somebody's going to tell me The Hunger Games is for adolescents, but I thought it was a great series in a very engaging, interesting way, which I might talk about later, because it really does bring up Darwinism and some of the implications of natural selection and even of survival of the fittest and what that really means. So I might talk about it and really bore you. But I've underlined the one that I think I wanted to talk about, and I don't know if you can see it here. I don't think you can. It's The Hare with the Amber Eyes. And I also read that on the train. But I found that it was a visual book, and because it was about art objects, and I won't go into the details, it was a really good book, that's all I'll say. And I kept thinking, I want to see what's going on here. And the Kindle is great for portability, but it's not great for carrying things. I mean, it's great for carrying things, but it's not great for seeing beautiful art, if that's part of the book. So I was on the fly at a W.H. Smith, and I saw this book, which is just a trade paperback of the same thing, Hare with the Amber Eyes, and I bought it to take a look at the visual component, and it didn't really do it for me. And yes, I am made very poor by my book addiction, obviously. I mean, I'm sharing this, my part of my addiction here. So I actually did this. I bought something called, and it was a really good investment. This is also The Hare with the Amber Eyes, but it's the illustrated edition. So I bought this book 3 times, and it's worth it because I finally discovered the medium I find most interesting and most engaging, because on an art book, you actually need to see the art, and you actually need to see the context. And this book did it for me. But, you know, if I'd figured that out to begin with, I wouldn't have bought 3 copies, obviously. So I actually needed this book in hard copy. And you know what I like about YouTube right now? Nobody's watching my videos, so I'm actually talking to myself, and I really like talking to just myself. Now, this is the book that I harassed poor Professor Anton about, the Master and His Emissary, which is by Ian McGilchrist. And Professor Anton, I'm glad he was impressed with this book, because I was very impressed with it as well. It took me a long time to read this book. I did a rare thing. I didn't take my Kindle when I was reading this. I dragged this around with me everywhere. And you can know a book I love because the binding looks like this. I don't know if you can see it. It looks like I ate this book. And I've marked it, and I've read it 4 or 5 times, and I've gone through it in detail and marked it up. Because when I love a book, I want to mark the places that I want to go back to. And Professor Anton mentioned this once, that really, I mean, you can do that on the Kindle. You can put a bookmark in and you can go back to the passages. But there's something really good about physically marking a place that you want to come back to, physically in real time, in a real book. And I somehow knew that I would love doing that with this book. So I own this copy only. I don't have this on my Kindle. And it's a hard book to give you a synopsis of. Professor Anton touched on some of the things that impressed me about the book. But it's really about what it means to be human. And to be human, you must integrate the part of your brain that does the bookkeeping, basically, that itemizes, and the part that integrates and makes you human. This book talks about that in detail. And Professor Anton talked about McGilchrist's background. I mean, he is so well read in a way that just is effortless, in a way that I'm not, really. I mean, people talk about how uptight I am, and I am way too uptight. And I can't make this seem effortless, because for me, it's really not effortless. I really have to work hard at this stuff to try to figure out the world. Now, that brings me to my last book, which I spent the day reading in the park. I loved having the day off. This is it. It's called Some Tales of the Afterlives. Now, before you panic and you start thinking I'm proselytizing about afterlives, David Eagleman is not talking about a literal afterlife. He's actually presenting ways to be human, and he presents you more than 40 of them. It was an amazing, good read, and I spent 2 hours in the park before it got cold again, which it did, reading this. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see this, but right here it says, you will not read a more dazzling book this year. And that's by Stephen Fry. I don't know if you know who Stephen Fry is, but he's sort of the king of Twitters. And there is a link in the low bar to what he said about this book in detail. And I can only agree with him. It's a very short read. I read it all in about less than 2 hours. And you may read faster than I do. What I really liked, one section I really liked, and I think sort of epitomized this, and as I said, he doesn't believe in it. He doesn't believe in an afterlife. He's not a religious person. Was the section on spirals. It's on page 29. And in this one, it's really about what it is to be, if we'd conquered AI and we had created intelligences very much more intelligent than we are, what would that really mean as far as the questions? And you may not ask yourself these questions, but I do, and I assume that David Eagleman does as well. Because you may not ask yourself, you know, who are we, and that kind of thing. I mean, I do ask, and I know that it's sophisticated non-atheists. They don't want to call them, nobody wants to call themselves a non-believer anymore, because we're all supposed to be new atheists. But I call myself a non-believer. And I do ask myself these questions, as does David Eagleman, I guess, because he wrote the book. Why are we here? What is the purpose of our existence? And I would also say, why does what is the purpose have such a bad press right now? I mean, I think about what is the purpose of my existence and what is the purpose of our existence, and I am a total non-believer. I don't think I'm going to find the purpose of human existence in religion. I don't. But I do ask myself that question. And Eagleman points out in this chapter that if we invent these machines, what is it going to actually profit us? In the sense, I mean, it's a good thing to do. I'm not saying it's not a good thing to do, but will it really ultimately tell us what it is to be human? It probably won't. It just probably won't. Because, as Eagleman points out, that the people who invent these artificial intelligence automata in this chapter don't realize that when they invent them, the inventions are going to go on to make their own inventions. But will that ultimately answer these questions? And Eagleman's answer is no. It will not answer these questions for us. For us, or for the artificial intelligences that may someday quest to find the answers to these things. And this is what he says. They don't guess that we are unable to answer these questions, and that we built machines of increasing sophistication to address our own mysteries. And that is the mystery of what it is to truly be human. You try to explain this to the creatures, and I won't go into the context of what this means, but it is fruitless. Not because they don't understand you, but because you realize how little you understand about our machines. In other words, ultimate questions are just that. They're ultimate questions. And I don't know the answers. And I don't believe that the people who are trying to tell us the answers know the answers either. They're just telling us what to think rather than inviting us to try to do our own thinking. And it's not popular here on YouTube to say that, but it's true, for me at least, and I think it should be true for anybody who wants to be fully human. Just my take. And this was a ramble because I'm between doing things, and if you listen to this, I really like this part of YouTube and the fact that I'm just talking to myself again, I hope. That's the way I started out, trying to think aloud about the things that make me wonder about the world. And I don't want to be, I'm a non-believer. I don't want to be told by anybody what to believe. And I least of all want pre-digested facts. I just don't. Anyway, if you find this book, I've bought it for absolutely almost nothing on Amazon. Try to pick up a copy in your library, or try to buy a used copy, or try to buy it on Amazon for less. It's worth your time, and it'll be a nice afternoon in the park if you're like me. Anyway, I'm out of here. You guys take care of yourselves. Bye.